In push for LGBTQ plus rights in Pakistan, one province backs trans rights. The Sindh Human Rights Commission has advised police to stop harassing and arresting transgender people, an important step toward changing discriminatory laws, policy, and public attitudes in Pakistan's Sindh province. The commission, an independent statutory body, issued the guidance on April 3rd, relying on constitutional protections and international legal principles. It said that offenses based on poverty and homelessness should be removed so transgender women, along with street children, do not face criminal charges for behavior that they take merely to survive. In January, the Sindh Cabinet approved reserved seats for transgender people on local councils so that each local council has at least one transgender representative. In December, the Sindh government extended the benefits of the Benazir Income Support Program, BISP, the country's largest social safety net, to transgender people. While Sindh's recent measures provide some hope for ending discrimination and persecution of transgender people in the province, Pakistan's federal and other provincial governments need to do much more. According to Amnesty International, between September 2021 and October 2022, 18 transgender people were reported murdered in Pakistan. Discrimination and violence against transgender people are common, despite provisions in Pakistani law protecting them. So I did not even realize, I have a lot of Pakistani friends and they've always been so cool. So that makes a lot of sense that they're one of the countries in the middle of the Middle East who is actually stepping out when in other countries, their neighboring countries are publicly murdering people who are LGBTQ+. So this show of courage and or support is really lifting my spirits right now. It seems almost like it's better in Pakistan than it is here in South Florida.
It's coming from
I lived in the Sindh province of Pakistan. You know, I represent a lot of asylum seekers, and you know, Pakistan still has a way to go, but at least in this province, they took the brave step, because you could imagine all these, government officials taking the step in a country that overwhelmingly is anti-LGBTQ. So I commend them for their efforts. It'll be good to watch to see what happens, like what's the aftermath, like what is going to happen to these individuals who took this brave step in protecting transgender individuals in their province.
I'd like to take a moment just to sort of reflect on what you mentioned at the end of your comments. Pakistan, at least part of the country, has better trans protections than the United States. Mm-hmm. Let that sink in. Mm-hmm. Pakistan, they have a larger population than the United States, and they've had 18, in that 1 year or 13-month period, they had 18 murders, which is terrible and horrible. We have more than that in America. Mm-hmm. We have more than that in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's just let that sit in for a second. Now, this is a part of Pakistan that's on the that's near the Indian border. So, and India is objectively better on LGBTQ rights, and there's a lot of overlap in Hindu and the rest of the Pakistanis. So they're far away from the provinces next to Afghanistan, where the warlords still run things and women are still very oppressed. So this is, by Pakistani measurements, it's a very progressive area. But let's just think about that. They're better. They're making room. They're putting a place at the table. They're not like, okay, you can be trans and we're not going to kill you. No, they're saying, come have a seat at a table. We've saved you a seat.
And here's
my
money.
God, that's wonderful.
Here's money, and here's money for you to have housing and food security and all the stuff that we don't necessarily do here in the U.S.
And acknowledging that, how are we going to punish people who are merely trying to survive? Like they recognize, their consciousness level is there, and recognizing that survival
which is sort of what we've been talking about all night. It's about that, bringing them to the table, making people meet and see who they are. They're not as scary when you know who your neighbor is. And I think kudos to them for doing that, because in the state of Florida, we're doing just the opposite. We've got Pride coming up, and there can be no one dresses as a drag queen because it's not natural.
Well, that's still debate. I mean, as far as I understand, local politicians are saying, screw that, we're going to have our pride and just be done with it.
Yeah, but I've heard none of the stages are going to have any drag queens on it at all. I know we're off topic, but
yeah,
back to India, I mean, or Pakistan.
But even so, I mean, the fact that this is a wonderful opportunity because this one province is now going to be able to prove the misinformation, the disinformation, the lack of education as to how human transgendered people truly are, that their families and they have brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, and you know, they play a role of working every day and, you know, paying taxes or whatever. I think this influence is going to impact the rest of Pakistan. It's going to be an uphill battle, just like we're dealing with, but you know, we have Minnesota doing the same thing, showing us how to accept and embrace and work out the kinks. But we'll have to, I mean, it's an uphill battle around the world, but it's at least a bright spot.
Absolutely.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.